What really makes someone a monster, in today's world? Is it just the body count, the sheer number of lives they've destroyed?
Or is it the billions they've stolen, right?
Yeah.
Plundered from economies, leaving chaos behind.
Yeah, or maybe it's just that brazen defiance of, well, everyone, of global justice. We seem drawn to this stuff, the dark side of ambition.
It's morbidly fascinating, I suppose.
Right.
But the people who are really shaping global crime today, they're way more complex than the headlines let on.
Huh.
Much more insidious.
Totally. So today we're doing an unfiltered deep dive, no punches pulled. We're looking into what you could call the global blacklist.
And this isn't just like a random list of names somebody threw together. It's about understanding who these notorious criminals are, the living ones right now.
Exactly. And maybe even more crucial, why they have such devastating influence. Our mission here is to cut through all the noise, all the sensationalism,
And really reveal the significance of their criminal legacies, the actual impact they have.
and the huge, just colossal challenge they pose to global order, to stability itself.
Now, you might think, maybe instinctively, that there's just one big world's most wanted list somewhere, like one central database.
Yeah, like in the movies, one big board with all the faces pinned up.
Right. But the reality, it's much messier. It's really fragmented. It actually reflects how fractured global justice really is.
It's like this patchwork quilt you said, different agencies, different jurisdictions.
Exactly. A patchwork quilt is a great way to put it. Each piece has its own vital role, but they're distinct.
So in the U.S., for example, you've got the FBI list, the DEA list.
Yeah.
They're public, mostly focused on threats to Americans,
Yeah.
right? Drugs coming in, direct dangers.
Correct. National threats. But then you look across the globe, you've got the International Criminal Court, the ICC, in The Hague.
And they're going after completely different things. Crimes against humanity, genocide, the absolute worst acts imaginable.
Truly horrific stuff. And then there's Interpol. Now, a lot of people misunderstand Interpol. It's not like a global police force with its own agents making arrests.
Right, it's more like a messaging system, a way for police forces everywhere to talk to each other.
Precisely. A sophisticated communication channel. They issue those red notices you hear about, basically alerting other countries that someone is wanted.
So this fragmentation, this patchwork, it's not necessarily a design flaw.
No, I wouldn't call it a flaw. It's more a testament to how the world is set up. Different legal systems, the whole principle of national sovereignty. Nobody wants another country telling them exactly who to arrest and how.
Makes sense. Each country guards its own turf.
So each entity, the FBI, DEA, ICC, Interpol liaison offices, they operate under their own rules, their own mandates. National laws, international treaties.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we need to navigate this labyrinth. We're going to categorize these figures.
Yeah.
How?
By the impact of what they do.
Exactly. By the sheer audacity, the scale, and the devastating impact of their crimes. It gives us a clearer picture of just how vast and, frankly, how terrifying the landscape of global crime really is today. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start with the ones who've really revolutionized organized crime, the architects of these global criminal empires.
You have to forget that old image, right? The stereotype of some small-time drug dealer on a street corner, or even a classic mafia boss.
Totally. We are talking about CEOs, chief executives of violent multinational businesses.
Operating with corporate-level logistics, supply chains, financial management, but combined with paramilitary force. It's a scary combination.
They're not just breaking laws anymore. They're actively challenging the power of states, aren't they?
Absolutely. Wielding terror as policy, using corruption like a weapon, building these multi-billion-dollar empires.
It blurs the lines. Is it crime? Is it insurgency? Is it some kind of twisted corporate management?
It's all of the above. And they've perfected command and control, directing literal armies of Sicarios, professional killers.
And using fear strategically, not just as a byproduct, but as a core part of their business model.
Yes. Their reach is global. Their operations are a direct punch in the face to any idea of national control. They create these parallel power structures.
And nowhere is that clearer or more brutal than in Mexico. The cartel wars there, it's just destabilized entire regions.
Utterly. And we have to start with Nemesio Oseguera-Cervantes, El Mencho.
The founder and leader of CJ&G Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, now one of the most powerful, most feared organizations on the planet.
His name alone causes fear, not just in Mexico, but across the border, internationally.
The scale's hard to wrap your head around. The U.S. State Department has a $10 million reward out for him. $10 million.
And he's indicted as a continuing criminal enterprise, that CCE designation, that's reserved for the absolute top tier, the kingpins running massive operations.
But his signature move, it isn't just drugs, is it? It's the violence. Extreme terroristic violence used specifically for expansion and control.
Calculated terror. Think about those public displays of military hardware, like they're daring the state to challenge them.
In that time, they shot down a Mexican military helicopter back in 2015. That was CJNG, right? That was El Mencho's calling card.
Exactly, a direct military challenge to the Mexican state. And this violence, connecting it to the bigger picture, it's not random, it's strategic.
How so?
It's designed to build this terrifying reputation, to seize territory from rivals, often brutally, and crucially, to enforce absolute discipline within their own ranks and over the civilians they control.
It's like a form of governance through fear.
Precisely. And they often record this barbarism, put it online. It's a chilling warning to everyone else, rivals, authorities, the public. It suffocates communities. They understand that the perception of power is almost as important as the power itself.
Damn. Okay, then there's the other side of the coin, maybe. The ghost. Ismael Zambada Garcia, El Mayo.
El Mayo. Until his capture just recently in July 2024, he was a genuine legend, a phantom.
The co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel.
Yeah.
And he evaded capture for, what, over 50 years?
More than half a century. Think about that longevity in that world. Kingpins usually don't last that long. They get caught, they get killed.
And he's such a contrast to El Chapo, isn't he? Chapo loved the spotlight, the infamy, almost like a celebrity.
A total contrast. El Mayo operated entirely from the shadows, the quiet, calculating godfather type. He outlasted almost everyone.
His recent arraignment in Brooklyn, the details coming out, it's just breathtaking. Leading a CCE from 1989 to 2024.
35 years at the alleged helm of one of the world's biggest drug trafficking organizations. Billions upon billions generated from cocaine, heroin, meth, and now fentanyl, all while staying practically invisible.
How did he protect that empire?
Well, the allegations are staggering. Thousands of operatives across North and South America, complex logistics moving drugs north, laundering money south.
And legions of sicarios, right?
Yeah.
For kidnappings, murders.
And millions spent annually bribing high-level Mexican officials, buying protection, buying impunity, literally corrupting the state from within.
His capture. It really feels like the end of an era for that old guard of Sinaloa.
Absolutely definitive. A major turning point. The last of the old godfathers, really.
But as one era ends, another begins, often even bloodier. Enter Los Chapitos.
El Chapo's sons. A new generation fighting for control of the Sinaloa cartel. The main ones are the fugitive brothers, Ivan Archibaldo Guzman Salazar and Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar.
And they're not just riding their father's coattails. They've adapted, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. They've taken their father's infrastructure and pivoted hard into the fentanyl trade, running labs in Sinaloa, churning out counterfeit pills, pushing synthetic death into the U.S.
And the violence associated with them?
Yeah.
It seems even more extreme.
The reports are horrific. U.S. Treasury sanctions mention Jesus Alfredo being involved in torture. And then there are those truly chilling accusations, feeding enemies to tigers they keep as pets.
Tigers? Seriously, that's beyond grotesque. It's like something out of a depraved movie.
It's a sickening display of power. Dynastic crime meets synthetic drugs meets just unbridled, almost performative brutality.
And the U.S. clearly sees them as a massive threat. $10 million reward for each of them, too.
It underscores the danger they pose to Mexico, to the U.S., to regional stability.
And the landscape keeps shifting. Just when you think you know the players, someone like Fausto Isidro Meza-Flores, Chapo Isidro, gets added to the FBI's top 10 list.
Right. His recent addition really highlights the fluidity, the resilience of these Mexican TCOs. You take down one head, another grows.
He leads the Meza-Flores TCO, born from the ashes of the Beltran Leyva cartel.
Allegedly, yes. Heavily armed. The charges cover a long period, 2005 to 2019. Massive amounts of meth, coke, heroin, marijuana, all heading north, protected by serious firepower.
So the analysis here is crucial, isn't it? Taking out kingpins isn't enough.
Not even close. It just creates a power vacuum. New leaders emerge, often more ambitious, often more violent. The networks themselves survive, adapt, regenerate.
It means law enforcement has to shift focus, right? From just targeting the top guy to dismantling the whole network.
It's a monumental challenge. These aren't simple hierarchies anymore. They're complex, decentralized, resilient organisms.
Okay, moving beyond the cartels, but still in that transnational sphere, we're seeing street gangs evolve into global threats.
A terrifying evolution indeed, and a prime example is Yulan Adonai Archaga Carias, El Porky.
The highest-ranking MS-13 leader in Honduras, also on the FBI's top 10.
His case is textbook. How a street gang transforms into a full-blown TCO. He's charged with racketeering, importing cocaine, possessing machine guns.
So MS-13 isn't just about street violence anymore. They're into large-scale drug trafficking, money laundering.
Absolutely. Plus the usual murder, kidnapping, extortion. El Porky allegedly directs all of it in Honduras.
And the U.S. putting him on the top 10 list with a $5 million reward. That sends a message.
It signals that the U.S. sees MS-13 not just as a domestic problem, but as a major transnational criminal and narco-terrorist threat. Its influence reaches far beyond Central America.
Which raises that terrifying question. What happens when these criminal leaders operate in a failed state? A place where the government basically collapses.
That brings us to Haiti and Vital Home Innocent. A gang warlord, but also a political destabilizer.
His story is just a stark example of how criminals thrive in chaos, escalating from gang violence to basically challenging the state itself.
He leads the Craze Berry gang. He's a key player in that Viv Ansam alliance that's turned Port-au-Prince into, well, a living hell.
Controlling huge parts of the city through terror, extortion, kidnapping.
His infamy exploded globally after the FBI added him to the 10 most wanted list, primarily for 2 incidents involving Americans.
The kidnapping of those 17 missionaries in 2021, right? Including kids.
Yes, and then the 2022 kidnapping where 1 U.S. citizen was taken and another tragically died as a result.
But his actions go way beyond kidnapping foreigners, don't they? He's attacking infrastructure, killing police.
He's directly contributing to Haiti's complete political and humanitarian collapse, assaulting critical infrastructure, slaughtering police officers. It's more like insurgency now than just gang activity.
And targeting foreigners made him a top U.S. priority. There's a $2 million reward out for him.
His reign just shows how, in fragile states, unchecked criminal power can effectively replace legitimate government. It's terrifying.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Because notoriety isn't just about guns and, physical violence. There's a whole other breed of criminal mastermind out there.
The ones who wield code, charisma, complex financial instruments.
Right. Perpetrating frauds on a scale that was probably unimaginable just a few decades ago.
And the harm they cause is devastating, not just financially, wiping out life savings for millions.
But systemically, too. Eroding public trust in the digital world, in our financial systems. It's like this invisible violence undermining everything.
Absolutely. And maybe the ultimate example of this, the quintessential 21st century scam, is the Cryptoqueen, Dr. Ruja Ignatova.
And her $4 billion phantom, OneCoin. It had everything, didn't it? Revolutionary tech hype, charisma, and just old-fashioned Pyrrhon scheme deceit.
Dr. Ruja Ignatova, Bulgarian-German, PhD. Very smart, very convincing, and, incredibly, the only woman currently on the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
She launched OneCoin in 2014, marketed it as the Bitcoin killer.
Aggressively. Using a multi-level marketing structure, she pulled in millions of people globally. They poured an estimated $4 billion into it.
$4 billion. It's just mind-blowing. And the whole thing was a complete sham.
A total calculated fraud. OneCoin had no real blockchain technology behind it, this secure digital ledger that makes legit cryptocurrencies work. OneCoin didn't have it.
So its value was just made up.
Completely manipulated by Ignatova and her team to create this illusion of massive growth. There are internal emails where they literally talk about it.
What did they say?
Things like, "We're not mining actually, but telling people shit." It was pure cynicism. A classic Ponzi scheme paying old investors with new investors' money, combined with a pyramid scheme structure rewarding recruitment over any actual product.
And then she just vanished.
Poof! October 2017, right when U.S. authorities were closing in, boarded a flight from Sofia to Athens and hasn't been seen since.
Leaving behind ruined lives, shattered dreams, and a $5 million FBI reward.
And those persistent rumors, unconfirmed but reported by serious journalists in Bulgaria, that she might have been murdered in late 2018, possibly on the orders of an organized crime figure she was involved with.
Wow. Whether she's alive or dead, her story is just this massive warning sign about hype, charisma, and fraud in new tech spaces. That $4 billion represents so much pain.
A crushing betrayal of trust on a global scale.
And this digital frontier has also given rise to the cyber-mafia.
Digital grand larceny.
Yeah.
And the U.S. Secret Service, ironically created to fight counterfeit money, is now on the front lines against these high-tech thieves.
An enemy without borders, without a physical presence half the time.
Their most wanted list is full of them. Individuals from these transnational cybercriminal groups, accused of causing billions in losses.
Through hacking, data breaches, bank fraud, ransomware attacks that cripple hospitals, businesses, cities.
And they often operate from places where law enforcement cooperation is difficult, shall we say, jurisdictions that are lax or unwilling to extradite.
So they pose this persistent, escalating threat. And the multi-million-dollar rewards show how seriously governments take this, even if the damage is often invisible to the public.
Let's name a few, just to see the scope. Sergei Sergeyevich Ivanov, Russian national, $10 million reward.
What's he accused of?
Being part of the group behind the Gozi virus, infected over 1 million computers worldwide, even NASA systems, all to steal banking info and drain accounts.
1 million computers, including NASA. Damn.
Then there's Timur Kamalovich Shakhmampov, also Russian, also a $10 million bounty.
His alleged crime.
A massive international scheme using stolen debit card data for fraudulent ATM withdrawals, coordinated across multiple countries simultaneously. Millions lost in just hours.
That level of coordination is terrifying, hitting ATMs everywhere at once.
It shows the speed and reach these groups have. And finally, Alexei Viktorovich Biluchenko.
What's his story?
Allegedly ran the illicit crypto exchange BTCE, accused of facilitating transactions for cybercriminals worldwide, laundering over $4 billion.
$4 billion laundered through one exchange.
It just highlights how crypto, while revolutionary, can absolutely be weaponized for crime, creating these vast, shadowy financial networks that are incredibly hard to penetrate.
Okay, from digital theft, we now turn to, well, the most heinous crimes imaginable. Acts that just shock the conscience of the world.
We're talking about the International Criminal Court, the ICC in The Hague. It represents that global ambition, however flawed, to hold individuals accountable for the absolute worst. Genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity.
It's an institution born out of the promise of never again, right?
Exactly, but the figures on the ICC's wanted list, they're infamous not for money, but for allegedly abusing state power, military power, to commit mass atrocities against civilians.
And their cases expose that huge, often soul-crushing gap between an indictment from the world's highest court and actually getting justice.
The enforcement problem. These individuals can defy the ICC for years, decades even, shielded by politics, hiding in conflict zones. It's incredibly frustrating.
A long road to accountability is an understatement. Look at Omar al-Bashir, former president of Sudan.
Seized power in '89 and holds that grim record, the first sitting head of state ever indicted by the ICC. That was a massive moment.
And the charges relate to Darfur, starting back in 2003.
Yes. His alleged role as the architect of that brutal counterinsurgency campaign. The ICC issued 2 warrants, 5 counts of crimes against humanity, murder, extermination, forcible transfer, torture, rape, 2 war crimes, and 3 counts of genocide.
Genocide against specific ethnic groups.
The prosecution alleges a systematic plan to destroy the Fur, Mosalit, and Zargala people, carried out by the Sudanese army and the Janjaweed militia. Estimates are 200,000 to 400,000 deaths. Just horrific state-sponsored slaughter.
But he was overthrown in Sudan in 2019, right? And convicted on corruption charges there.
Yes, but crucially, he's still in Sudanese custody. He has not been transferred to The Hague to face the charges related to Darfur.
So he remains a fugitive from international justice for those specific massive crimes.
Exactly. His case is this perfect, chilling example of international law clashing with political reality, with national sovereignty, justice delayed, potentially justice denied for the victims of Darfur.
Then there's Joseph Kamedi, the ghost of the Lord's Resistance Army.
Enigmatic, profoundly brutal, leader of the LRA, that cult-like group that terrorized northern Uganda, South Sudan, DRC, Central African Republic for decades.
His reputation is built on just extreme violence, bizarre spiritual fanaticism, and the systematic use of child soldiers.
Stealing tens of thousands of children. The LRA's terror campaign caused maybe over 100,000 deaths, abducted at least 60,000 kids, displaced millions.
The ICC warrant against him came out way back in 2005. 36 counts.
War crimes, crimes against humanity, murder, mutilation, torture, enslavement, rape, sexual slavery, and forcing children to fight often making them kill their own families. Just pure evil.
And Coney himself, this self-proclaimed prophet, telling his followers holy water would make them bulletproof.
A terrifying delusion that led so many, especially children, to their deaths.
And despite huge international efforts, U.S. military advisors, that viral Coney 2012 thing.
He's remained at large for almost 20 years now. His elusiveness is almost mythical.
So the ICC decided to proceed with confirming the charges against him, even in his absence.
A rare move, yes. To ensure the evidence is formally recorded, preserved, it shows their determination, even if capture seems impossible right now. But it's agonizingly slow for the victims.
Another figure highlighting a different kind of war crime. Iyad Ag Ghali, Abu Fadl.
The Malian Tuareg leader of Ansar Eddin, an Islamist group linked to al-Qaeda.
Wanted by the ICC for crimes in Timbuktu, Mali, back in 2012.
Yes, and beyond the horrific violence against people, murder, rape, torture, persecution based on religion and gender, his indictment includes something else.
The cultural destruction.
Exactly. The war crime of intentionally attacking protected objects. Under his command, Ansar Eddin systematically destroyed ancient Sufi shrines, mausoleums in Timbuktu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Called them idolatrous.
And they burned ancient manuscripts too, right? Irreplaceable history.
Just senseless cultural vandalism. Ag Ghali's case really underscores the ICC's mandate isn't just about protecting lives, but also protecting our shared global heritage.
And he's still out there.
Still at large. A reminder of the destructive force of extremism trying to erase identity and history along with lives.
And the ICC's work, it isn't just historical, is it? They're involved in ongoing conflicts.
Constantly. Like the March 2023 warrant for Maria Lvova-Belova, the Russian Commissioner for Children's Rights.
For the alleged unlawful deportation of Ukrainian children. A war crime.
Yes. It speaks to how children become pawns, direct victims in modern warfare.
And then very recently, November 2024, the ICC prosecutor applied for arrest warrants related to the Israel-Hamas conflict.
Hugely significant. Applications for warrants against Hamas leaders like Mohammed Delifif and also Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant.
That definitely puts the court right in the middle of intense geopolitical controversy.
Absolutely. It highlights its role as a potential, albeit contentious, arbiter in the world's most charged conflicts, even involving non-member states or non-state groups.
And just to be clear, we're reporting these allegations as presented by the court. We're not taking sides or endorsing any view.
Correct. Just relaying the information within the international legal framework as it unfolds.
Okay, now let's dive into a specific, really nasty hybrid threat. The narco-terrorist.
Yeah, that term isn't just a buzzword. It describes a specific, dangerous combination. The nexus between large-scale drug trafficking and political insurgency.
Where crime funds terror, and terror protects crime.
Exactly. It's truly symbiotic. The drug money provides the capital for weapons, recruitment, bribing officials, everything you need to run an insurgency.
And the terrorist group provides the muscle, the territorial control.
Precisely. They secure the areas where drugs are produced, the smuggling routes. This fusion of profit and political violence creates this incredibly complex and dangerous adversary. A modern monster that thrives on instability.
In a prime example, maybe the poster child for this right now, is Wilver Villegas Palomino, El Puerco, the Hog.
High-ranking commander in Colombia's ELN, the National Liberation Army, a Marxist group designated a foreign terrorist organization by the U.S.
And he's on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. That puts him right at the top tier of global threats.
Absolutely cements him as a major narco-terrorist figure. The charges against him are serious. Narco-terrorism, international cocaine distribution conspiracy.
He allegedly runs the ELN's northeastern war front, controlling the Catatumbo region in Colombia.
Which is a major cocaine production hub. He's accused of owning or controlling over 70 cocaine labs. 70.
And the output.
Estimated at 200 tons of cocaine per year. Just an obscene amount of product and profit.
But crucially, this isn't just about him getting rich, like a traditional cartel boss might focus on.
No, that's the key distinction for a narco-terrorist. These massive drug profits allegedly go directly into funding the ELN's operations. Their terrorist attacks, buying political influence, undermining the Colombian government, countering U.S. interests.
So his notoriety comes from being this central node. connecting the crime and the terror.
Exactly. He's accused of professionalizing the ELN's drug business, turning it into a financial powerhouse for their insurgency.
By exploiting local poverty using the ELN's military force.
He poses this dual threat. He's both a major drug trafficker and a terrorist commander. That makes him exceptionally dangerous to regional and international security.
So far, we've talked about these figures who wield immense power, destabilize whole countries, systemic threats. But notoriety can also be incredibly personal, right? Visceral, disturbing on a whole different level.
Absolutely. This last category looks at criminals whose infamy comes not from leading empires, but from, well, the exceptional depravity of their individual acts, the chilling cruelty, sometimes the sheer bizarre nature of their crimes.
It taps into those primal fears. The sadistic serial killer, the murderer who dismembers someone, the fugitive who commits some horrible act and just vanishes for decades.
It brings the horror down from the macro level of global organizations to the micro level of individual pathology. Reminds us that evil can manifest anywhere on any scale.
Let's start with fugitives from U.S. justice. The faces on those domestic most wanted posters. Often wanted for a single brutal crime, but their flight from the law adds to their notoriety.
These are the names that haunt victims' families for years, decades sometimes, like Bhadresh Kumar Chetanbhai Patel, added to the FBI's top 10 in 2017.
What's his alleged crime?
He's wanted for allegedly murdering his wife, Palak Patel, in the back room of a donut shop in Maryland back in 2015.
In a donut shop?
Yeah.
How brazen.
Incredibly. Allegedly stabbed her multiple times, then just calmly walked out, vanished. Last seen heading towards Newark Penn Station, believed to have international ties, which has helped him stay gone for almost 10 years now.
Just a chilling case of domestic violence, followed by this long, frustrating evasion.
Then there's Lester Eubanks. His case is just painful. One of the longest hunted fugitives in U.S. history.
Wanted by the U.S. Marshals for a crime from nearly 60 years ago.
1965. He murdered and attempted to rape 14-year-old Mary Ellen Diener in Ohio. He was convicted, sentenced to death.
But his sentence was commuted.
Tragically, yes, to life in prison in 1972 due to a Supreme Court ruling at the time. Then, in December 1973, he was given a temporary furlough for Christmas shopping.
A furlough for Christmas shopping for someone convicted of that.
Unbelievable, isn't it? He just walked away and never came back. On the run ever since.
Nearly 50 years on the run after committing such a horrific crime. It's a symbol of justice completely denied. A ghost still out there.
And then Tamara Williams, wanted by the Marshals for a crime of just exceptional brutality.
What are the charges?
First-degree murder, dismemberment of a body, tampering with evidence, firearm offenses. She's accused of killing her boyfriend David Carter in 2018.
And the dismemberment part.
Parts of his body were found by cleanup crews along an interstate highway in Ohio. The gruesome nature of it, especially the dismemberment, has made her a high-priority fugitive. It's just a grotesque level of depravity.
Okay, let's shift to the final group. Those who are caught, incarcerated, but still infamous, monsters behind bars.
For some, prison doesn't diminish their notoriety at all. It might even amplify it. Their cases become these dark benchmarks shaping law, media, public fear.
Like Mikhail Popkov, the werewolf, Russia's most prolific living serial killer.
One of the most prolific in modern history, yes. A former police officer from Angarsk, convicted of murdering 83 women and girls between 1992 and 2010, serving 2 life sentences.
A police officer, hiding in plain sight.
The ultimate predator using his authority. He allegedly used his police car, his uniform, to lure victims late at night, offered them rides,
and drove them somewhere remote.
To rape and kill them. With axes, knives, screwdrivers. He got away with it for 2 decades before DNA finally caught him in 2012.
His case is just a profound failure of the system that employed him and a terrifying look at calculated evil. His infamy will absolutely endure.
And in the UK, they have the whole life order, their harshest sentence.
Reserved for the absolute worst of the worst, right? Crimes so grave they can never be released.
Exactly. It's a judicial declaration of permanent notoriety, permanent exclusion from society. And that cohort includes some truly infamous names.
Rose West, convicted in '95, one of Britain's most notorious female serial killers.
Alongside her husband, Fred West, they systematically tortured, raped, and murdered at least 10 young women and girls, including her own stepdaughter.
At their home, the House of Horrors, the bodies found buried in the cellar, the garden. It just horrified the entire country.
She's serving a whole life order. Her name is just synonymous with this unimaginable level of domestic cruelty and depravity.
Then Levi Belfield, A serial killer serving 2 whole-life orders.
Former bouncer, wheel clamper. Murdered 3 young women, Marcia McDonnell, Amélie Delagrange, and 13-year-old Millie Dowler between 2002 and 2004. Bludgeoned them with a hammer.
And he confessed to the Millie Dowler murder while already in prison for the other.
Yes, his cold-blooded violence targeting young women. He's a figure of just profound public revulsion in the UK.
And Joanna Dennehy, one of the few women to get a whole-life order.
She murdered 3 men in Peterborough in 2013, a 10-day killing spree, as the media called it. Stabbed them, dumped their bodies in ditches. 2 were her housemates.
And she reportedly said she killed because it was more-ish and fun, and targeted men specifically.
That's what she told a psychiatrist. The judge called her cruel, calculating, selfish, and manipulative. Her apparent enjoyment of the violence guarantees her permanent notoriety. It's deeply disturbing.
Finally, a name known worldwide, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev.
Yeah.
The Boston Marathon bomber.
Along with his older brother Tamerlan, who died during the manhunt, they carried out the 2013 bombing. Still, the deadliest terror attack on U.S. soil since 9/11.
2 bombs near the finish line. Killed 3 people, including an 8-year-old boy. Injured over 500 others. Many lost limbs.
The attack, the citywide lockdown, the manhunt, the shootout where a police officer was killed, it just gripped and horrified the U.S.
Tsarnaev was convicted on 30 charges. Use of a weapon of mass destruction resulting in death. Sentenced to death.
He's currently in the federal Supermax prison in Florence, Colorado, ADX Florence, a living symbol of modern, homegrown, self-radicalized terrorism and the deep scars it leaves.
Wow. Okay, stepping back after all that, this deep dive into the global blacklist, it paints a really grim picture, doesn't it? But a clear one.
Undeniably clear. We've looked at individuals who, through sheer power, unbelievable brutality, or just outright defiance, have truly earned their spot in this gallery of robes.
And some key themes really stand out looking across all these cases.
Definitely. First, just the evolution of organized crime. These big TCOs, they operate like corporations crossed with paramilitary groups now.
Capable of challenging states directly, controlling territory, using violence that looks more like warfare than crime.
They're not just breaking laws, they're trying to build these alternative systems of power, shadow governments based on fear and dirty money.
And second, that dangerous overlap between crime and terrorism, the narco-terrorists.
That hybrid threat. People like Villegas Palomino show that fighting drugs and fighting terror are often the same fight now. They're totally intertwined.
And you see echoes of it with gang warlords like Weltel Home Innocent in Haiti, where crime just completely bleeds into political insurgency and causes a massive humanitarian disaster.
Absolutely. And the third big theme, maybe the most frustrating one, is impunity.
The fact that international justice, bodies like the ICC, they don't have their own police force. They rely on cooperation that doesn't always happen.
Which allows perpetrators of the absolute worst crimes, genocide, war crimes, to just evade accountability. Al-Bashir, Kony. Still out of reach years after their indictments.
It's a stark reminder that politics, chaos, national protection, they can make international law feel kind of toothless sometimes.
It creates this class of fugitives whose notoriety is actually amplified because they can defy the world's highest court, leaving victims just waiting endlessly.
So what does this all mean for us? For you, listening, looking ahead?
Yeah.
Cybercrime, the use of crypto for laundering money like Ruja Ignatova did. That's a huge, evolving frontier.
A digital battlefield, and the exploitation of unstable regions, failed states, that will continue to be fertile ground for these groups, these warlords, to grow their power.
It feels like the pursuit of these figures, it's not just about catching individuals. It's this constant global struggle to uphold the rule of law itself.
Against those who want to tear it down for profit and power, it demands this relentless two-pronged approach, doesn't it?
Strengthening international cooperation, intelligence sharing,
while also leveraging public awareness. Vigilance. The fact that these most wanted lists even exist, from the FBI's public ones to the sealed ICC indictments, it acknowledges a crucial truth.
That fighting global crime isn't just for governments.
Oh, it's a shared responsibility. It needs governments working together, but it also needs the watchful eyes of a global public. So the final thought for you, the listener, is, now that you've peered into this abyss, what will you choose to do with this knowledge? How does understanding these threats change how you see the world?